Clay Henry joining us, publisher, editor, Hawgs Illustrated. You can read him at Whole Hog Sports. You can hear him on the Morning Rush and right here on Halftime on Wednesdays. And, Clay, I gave your living room some props. I was finally invited inside your living room during the Dave Van Horn Zoom press conference this morning. Kind of looked like almost a mini Bass Pro Shops that you had going on in there, man. It's beautiful.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, we don't have an aquarium with with live fish in it, but we have a river 800 yards away. Then there are live fish that I'm going to visit this afternoon. Mm-hmm. I'm a little frustrated. Somehow I've let Ty Richardson, hook me into doing this podcast, which probably nobody listens to. And it's going to be an hour of just wasted time talking with him.
Now,
it's a gorgeous day. The sun is out, and I could be fishing. And according to Ty, I'm not a very good fisherman, so I need lots of practice. So I should be going this afternoon.
He had a lot to say about you this morning on the Morning Rush.
That's all right. He's got his platform. When he does something like that, I don't listen. I mean, you have to pay me to be on the show, and so in the morning with him. Now, I'm glad to do this segment with you guys, but you have to pay me to get up in the morning and have my coffee and be sharp and ready at that time to be on with him.
Well, Clay, I think you just need to be the master of your own domain and tell Ty, you got better things to do today than trust his process.
Well, I have told him that. Yeah. And
didn't go very far.
He did move it from 2:00 to 1:15, and so that'll be fine. He said 45 minutes on the front end, and now he's saying it's going to be an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm going to set my timer, and after 45 minutes, I was like, you had your shot. It's over.
I think you have a little bit of care for him because you are giving him a little bit of time when I assumed you would be fishing because he said this morning, it's going to happen around 1 or 2 o'clock. I don't remember the exact time he said. I was like, Ty, you must have pulled a lot of strings to get him out of fishing at 2 o'clock.
It's a pretty day, and it is a day that I should be working on my craft. And there's some fish down there that are kind of tame that I know. I've named them, and they're going to wonder where I'm at. It's like, where's Clay today?
Yeah, they're going to be thankful, is what you're saying. I wonder if Ty would have actually tried to get you to do this just before the basketball game tonight. This is not the end-all, be-all for either team, although Alabama can celebrate a regular season championship on the floor if they do win. And if you're Arkansas, and to me, Ty, this looks like a proud group. Like, you don't want to watch that on your home floor. Like,
net cutting? No. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and I think that they've had a week to prepare. It seems like Eric Musselman has done really well when he's, been in these situations in the past. But it will take a really, really good game by Arkansas. This is, you really wanted to get Alabama about 2 weeks ago, and they were beat up, and Brunner wasn't playing, and he's back now. He didn't play very well in the first game back, but he's their inside guy that can shoot threes. That's their ultimate matchup problem is that, can your big go out with him? And very few teams have had that. And, it's kind of like when Arkansas had Bobby Portis and he's playing the low block and he could step away and hit that 18-footer, and that's death to a lot of teams, and also be able to pass the ball.
What do you think outside of Justin Smith being at full strength, what else is most different about this Arkansas team from the last time Alabama played them? Because, how often would you see one team get completely blown out and not even look like they belong in the same court, and then a month later they're favored? Even though it's at home, Arkansas is favored. So they're a much different team than they were when Alabama blew them out. Outside of Justin Smith, what's the biggest change?
Yeah, so you've got the growth in the three freshmen. Moody's played pretty good all along, but Devo and Jalen Williams, Devo Davis, and their growth has been by leaps and bounds, and that's I guess that's a basketball term, but it's more than that. It's everything that they do. There's a comfort level now, and they have galvanized their defense, set their rotation, and I think Tate plays better at home too. So that's part of it. And most players do play better at home. I suspect that it'll be a good atmosphere as much as you can make it that with COVID. I think the Arkansas fans, if you'll remember how it was, Phil, for the UConn basketball game with the women and how the Arkansas crowd really made a difference, they'll be like that in this game because Arkansas fans understand when it's time to raise their level, and they just do. And it's I think the students will be the Florida game would have been one of those type, but the weather and the ice and all that changed that game. But I think whatever they have, 4,000 will be a factor tonight.
You mentioned how the freshmen are such a big difference between now and then, and Moses was good then. We didn't know how good Devo and Jalen would be, and they are really good. K.K. Robinson looked like he was going to be good before the injury.
He was coming. Yep.
Yeah, he was coming too. You know what it looks like, and this doesn't happen all the time with even great recruiting classes, Clay, and you know that. But it looks like Muss really hit a home run with this recruiting class. All four of them may work out.
Yeah, it's a special time for high school basketball in the state of Arkansas right now. AAU basketball, high school basketball, whatever you want to say, it's a different level than it was, say, 20 years ago. You get a player now and then. You got the triplets that all came out about the same time, Brewer, Moncrief, and Delph. And then you'd have one here or there. I mean, Corliss was the number one player in the nation as a high school, number one in the nation. And of course, Nolan got him. And then you've had a few, Gafford and Portis, come to mind. But this is the first time really since the triplet that you kept a class together, and they were of this brilliance. And they all arrived at Arkansas. And we know Moody's not going to be, this is a one and done thing for him. And congratulations to him for pulling this off. I mean, he's got another month to go, but what he does defensively and offensively makes him a pro. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch these guys play. These freshmen.
Got about a minute left here with Clay Henry, the publisher of Hawgs Illustrated, before we end the segment here. Obviously, it's a big game, but do you think we're putting maybe a little bit too much emphasis on this game? Because if you lose this game, it's not the end of the season. It's not the end of the world like if you'd lost to a non-conference SWAC team or something like that. You lost to the 6th-ranked team in the country, and obviously you don't want to lose. But are we putting too much emphasis on this, or are we just the right amount?
This is the fun things to do. Let's put all the emphasis we want, have a little fun with it. And, it's up to the coach and to keep the team grounded after this game. But let's enjoy it because this is where we want to be. This is the kind of stuff that Arkansas basketball we ought to be playing these kind of games, ranked teams at Bud Walton Arena. So yeah, let's enjoy it. Thanks. I mean, I get your point, but I think it's I'm gonna be hyped up, and I just enjoy it.
Oh, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a huge game, and it's going to be a lot left to talk about this thing.
I'm fired up about this game, as long as I can stay up for it, because I was ready to go to sleep by 8:00 last night.
It's going to be fun.
Thank goodness I slept.
Yep.
Yeah, coffee, Coca-Cola, whatever it is. I'm going to have something to stay awake. We're brought to you by our friends at Baxter Regional Medical Center, following all state and CDC guidelines, keeping you safe, and committed to providing excellent care to every single patient every single time. And they do ask that you wear a mask and maintain 6 feet of social distance, not just at Baxter Regional Medical Center, but everywhere else that you go. Follow Baxter Regional Medical Center on Facebook. Also go to baxterregional.org/coronavirus for updates. And that is Baxter Regional Medical Center, making sure that you stay healthy throughout this pandemic. All right, we'll come back. We'll finish out the first hour with Clay Henry on a Wednesday halftime. Let's get into some baseball here, Clay. What do you say? Yeah, Dave Van Horn. Yeah, let's do it. Dave Van Horn had a Zoom presser 10 o'clock this morning. And, of course, the first question is going to be about the starting pitching rotation. And he did announce it, that Caleb Bolden will start tomorrow against Southeastern Missouri and then keep the same rotation that he had over the last weekend. Zebulon Vermillion for Friday. And then on Saturday is going to be Peyton Paulette. Sunday will be Lyle Lockhart. So each of those guys will get one fewer day of rest than they usually would during the season, but they also occasionally will get those 6 days instead of 7 days. No surprise, Clay, that Caleb Bolden gets a start this weekend. And maybe no surprise that Dave made no other changes to the rotation either.
Yeah, I think that his initial reaction after Bolden pitched was Bolden's in the starting rotation. And then everybody's like, well, who's out? Well, it's a 4-game series, so nobody's out. I mean, it was like there's so many people that on our forum, it's like, well, who's the odd man out? Who didn't pitch well enough? Well, they all pitched well enough. Now, Vermillion, his numbers weren't as good, but he might have played, faced the best team. I think Texas Tech is the best team that was down there from the Big 12. They went 0-3, but I bet you when it's all said and done, they're hosting a regional, maybe even a super. So they're really good, and Arkansas came back and beat them, and that's the notable victory to me of the three. Now, I know what everybody's thinking, Clay. You had to revel in the Longhorns' misery down there, yeah, but also recognize that Texas Tech is the power in that conference of late.
That's true. And Texas looked bad, but also I think a lot of teams might look bad against the pitching staffs that they faced, and that's what really stood. That's what really. I know.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil, but what I really was hoping the SEC would do was make the three pitchers that beat Texas the SEC pitchers of the week, just for me.
Well, they made the two co-pitchers of the week got their award based upon what they did against Texas.
They did. But they could have added the third. Yeah.
Don't you feel it was so funny what Jim Schlossnagle said after Arkansas 2 hits his team with 18 strikeouts? He remarks that their 10th pitcher, Jackson Wiggins, is throwing 98 with a nasty slider, and he said it's like they're holding tryouts. And there's some truth to that too, Clay. Like, don't you feel that if there was any weekend that Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs would be okay with switching a regulation baseball game from 9 to 12 innings, like this last weekend, they would have been fine with that?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some guys they want to see. And that's exactly the way Matt Hobbs set up. He said the first 2 or 3 weekends, and he didn't call it tryouts, but he says, we're going to put guys out there, and they're going to tell us with their performances where they fit. And, I mean, that's what it is. That's a tryout, right? I mean, that's what early season is. And, I did a lot of radio with Chuck Barrett, and, I consider him to be, one of my best friends. And he told me from the very start when we first started in the early 90s doing radio, and he's doing baseball, and I get excited about something that happened, in March, and a guy that's on a hot streak, Ryan Lundquist or something, and he's like, baseball is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I mean, it is, and I just wrote a column, and that's my lead. Brady Slavin's he's going to have some lows. And Christian Franklin's not going to stay on this downer. He's too good. And he's got too good of a compact swing. He will hit. So, but yeah, they were having a tryout. There wasn't any doubt.
Well, yeah, baseball is a sprint, and it doesn't matter what level of baseball you're playing. You can't get too high. You can't get too low. And that's sort of been like my message on two aspects of what's happened this past weekend. One, I'm not telling anybody not to, be incredibly excited about what Arkansas did this past weekend. But you have to take it into perspective that it's one weekend out of 13 weekends, and that the other SEC teams also have pitching that might match up just as well. The other aspect, too, is don't put too much stock in the idea that neither Noland nor Wickland pitched, because I do think, I don't know what roles they're going to have, both of them will get their chances. They will get their chances. I don't know when it's going to happen, probably sooner rather than later. but I think both of them will have a chance to prove how valuable they can be to this team.
Yeah, one of them might turn out to be a closer. You never know. I mean, if these guys lock into these starting roles, but hey, there's so many things that happen to a pitching staff during a year. You know, there'll be a sore shoulder here, you know, tender elbow. I mean, there's, you know, that just happens in wintertime baseball, or summertime, I guess, too, right? I mean, you see guys, and when they get their chance, and they need to make the most of it, and then things will change. And they're still talented, both of those guys. But I will tell you, this is a staff that has talent probably about 20 deep. And it's just you just don't – this is a unique year in baseball. So but there will be some ups and downs, peaks and valleys. There's slumps, there's streaks, there's whatever. Yep, it is a marathon.
Clay Henry joining us here on Halftime, the publisher of Hawgs Illustrated. Who, in your estimation, who was of the three pitchers that we saw starting? We'll just look on the starter. You had Paulette, Lockhart, and Vermillion. Was there one that really stood out to you that really took command of their opportunity on the mound this weekend?
Well, they all did to some degree, but yeah, the Paulette is Paulette. How do you say it, Phil? You're the.
I've been saying Paulette.
All I have to do is remember 2 L's, 2 T's, right?
With an E at the end.
Yeah, and you know it's Peyton is he is the one that the scouts are just drooling over because he's got multiple pitches. He has some tenacity about him. He seems to enjoy. He's an old shortstop. He pitches like he's a shortstop. Like, here I come. I'm going to charge this one, and I'm going to gun you down. And he gets off that mound and he bounces up there and he says, "Here I come." And you better match his intensity, right, Phil?
That's right. A hitter will have a little trouble doing that and he doesn't just look intense. He looks like he gets quietly angry on that mound too.
Yeah, and it's like, and you got to be able to channel that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But so far, it looks like he channels it the right way.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
When you look at how they won these three games, Clay, it seems like they won them all in different ways. You mean in the game one, you won it in the latter part of the innings, and then the last two games you really won it with pitching and late game heroics. When you move forward for the rest of the season, especially when you get into the gauntlet of the SEC, winning those three games like that, I think will be even more beneficial as you move forward in the season. That this team, as compared to like say 2018 or 19, where they just got out in front of people early in the games and then just held leads, this team can win late in ball games, and I think it proved that this weekend.
Yeah, you want to have some games like that, and you want to have the ability to come back offensively. Have some firepower, and I think this lineup has that. The key to being able to do that late is having, a great bullpen. And if the back end of your pitching staff is really good, then you're always set up for a comeback. And they have that. They have the ability to shut people down, 6, 7, 8, 9. And, of course, that's good if you got the lead, but it also keeps you in position for a comeback.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see this thing plays out. And then you saw the new rankings come out. Arkansas gets all the way up to number 2, and Phil's favorite team, the Ole Miss Rebels, sitting at number 1. Clay, do you think Ole Miss could potentially be an Omaha-bound team?
Boy, that would really change the narrative for what Ole Miss baseball is. I mean, what Omaha means.
Yeah.
Ole Miss
at home again.
Yep.
I just wanted to hear that again. So.
Yep. And it doesn't take Arkansas fans to remind the Rebel fans of that, because everybody in the state of Mississippi that supports Mississippi State, they got bumper stickers of that. I mean, it's driving around, Mississippi. The Mississippi State fans, they like to taunt, especially when they're there. And it's like they'll hold up signs in the stadium. It's they're pretty good now. They're pretty good, and they'll make a run to get into regionals, but they won't be in Omaha.
They did look like they had the look of it, though, but we'll see. Yeah, and just because you have the look of it doesn't mean that you're going to make it there.
What's Ole Miss? It's Ole Miss.
Right.
They ain't going to make it.
Clay, we're up against the break. We got to cut it short there. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Clay.
You got it, guys. Thanks.
All right, it's Clay Henry from Hawgs Illustrated. He'll join us every Wednesday here on Halftime. All right, we've got, Kendall Rogers is coming up next from D1 Baseball. Why does he rank Arkansas second in the country behind Ole Miss? And other thoughts from one of the guys who knows college baseball better than just about anybody from the media perspective. So stay with us on Halftime.